And so then we asked a series of questions about whether or not Social Security was important in this kind of economic time, or whether we thought that it was somehow the cause of the deficit problem. Again, we found a significant portion of the population who believes Social Security provides stability and security to its people, and very, very few that believe that it was a drain on the economy, despite the many, many millions of dollars that have been spent to try to convince them otherwise. Again, when you look at the demographic breakouts, we ended up with the same issue, no matter what party identification you had, and no matter what age group you were. They were within 10 or 15 points of each other. This is a significant amount of unanimity among different groups of people. Then if you asked a similar question, which was, how important is Social Security to the American working family? We found very, very strong support to the statement that the recession underscores how important Social Security is to American working families. So rather than the recession showing that we can't afford the program, the American public, in fact, believes that this is the kind of economic situation that highlights how important Social Security is to American working families. This was an interesting set of questions that we asked, because we asked the question, do you personally think you're going to need Social Security when you get to retirement? And we ended up with a very, very strong majority who believe that, yes, they expect that they are going to need Social Security when they retire. 70% of the people were in that category, and if you look at the first two columns, those are the people that had that view the most strongly. Then we asked the question, and we broke out the question by income categories and by age. For this, I found it fascinating that if you look at this income group, this age group, these are the young people. These are people 36 and younger. And we started at about 18. So this is the group that these changes are supposedly being made to benefit. And what you will find is that this group of people, who don't think Social Security is going to be there for them, by the way. These are the people, when you poll them, they say, it's not going to be there for them because tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent trying to convince those people in particular that Social Security is not going to be there for them. You remember the old survey about them believing in aliens about as much as they thought Social Security was going to be there for them? So they don't think it's going to be there. They worry it's not going to be there, but they absolutely think they're going to need it. And part of the reason is because they know that they themselves are barely struggling to get by as it is. They know they're going to need the program, and they have the ability to look at the generations beyond them. They look at their grandparents. They see how much the grandparents rely on the program. They look at their parents. They see what happened to their parents in the recent economy. Most of their parents lost a boatload of money in their 401k plans. Most of their parents were planning to retire on the home equity of their loans, some of whom have gone down to zero or below. They're underwater. So they are looking at the generations ahead of them, and they are rapidly discovering that Social Security is the only thing left. In a bad economic time, even if you don't think the politicians are going to protect it for you, that's the only thing you're going to be able to rely on. And when we did the focus groups, we found this coming through very, very strongly. So for people that lean on just the question of whether young people believe in it, we try to remind them. They may not think it's going to be there. They may worry that it won't be there, but they absolutely think they're going to need it, and that is extremely important. On the political side, we asked a political question because, of course, this is a political year. And what we discovered is that a significant majority of Americans are more likely to vote against a candidate, vote for candidates who are likely to vote against a candidate who supported cutting Social Security benefits. If you look at this number, the little 9%, they're the only people that are going to support candidates who vote for cutting Social Security. This number are the ones who believe that they are supporters of Social Security. They will not vote for candidates who support cutting benefits. And then you have some people who just don't know, or for whom Social Security is not the only issue that they're going to base their vote on. So we believe that members look at cutting Social Security at their peril, and they need to make sure that they keep that in mind. Now, we polled the various options that people are looking at for making Social Security changes. This is raising the retirement age. It polled the least favorably. It polled, now we checked the flat benefits, which is basically indexing. We checked reducing the starting benefit, which is another form of indexing, and removing the wage caps. What we found about removing the wage caps, which you'll find in our full study, is that it had strong support among people with incomes over $100,000, who are the only people that are actually going to be affected by increasing the wage caps. So we also found in our focus groups, people were much more willing to pay more in higher payroll taxes, higher wage cap, any other way to pay more into Social Security if they thought it would be there for them, if they thought it would be protected, than they were to cut the benefit. But specifically on the retirement age, again, across party lines, across demographic groups, across parts of the country, very strong opposition, including the people 35 and under, who you would think would be the folks that would be the most willing to raise the retirement age because they're so far away from retirement. But in fact, we were quite surprised that the strength of that particular demographic group was as high as it was. And part of the reason is because the deficit situation has not changed Americans' views about Social Security. They think it's their program. They understand every paycheck, a payroll tax is going out to pay for this program. They thoroughly resent the fact that the government is running deficits and they've been using Social Security surpluses in order to pay off other programs. They think it's their money. They think it's been wasted on other programs. They want it back, and they are absolutely opposed to people who are thinking about taking their money and not giving them back a benefit for it. And again, they think it's a promise that was made to them, and they believe that it should be kept. So what we have discovered is that there's a huge disconnect between where the American public is and where members of Congress are. We believe that the American public is strongly behind us. The reason that people haven't heard, perhaps, more than they have from the American public is that, frankly, they don't know that Congress is thinking about cutting benefits. What we discovered in the focus groups was most people have no idea there's a Fiscal Commission out there. I mean, we get all wrapped around the axle about this stuff that's happening on a day-to-day basis here in D.C. Most people outside the Beltway have never heard of Alan Simpson. They don't know there's a Fiscal Commission. They have no idea Congress is thinking about cutting their benefits. And when you tell them that this is going on, they're appalled. So when the word gets out, hopefully people will be hearing more about this, but they need to understand, particularly members of Congress, that this is a much more descriptive explanation of where the American public is than what they're hearing from their economists and from some of the other people that have been trying to cut the program basically since its inception. Thank you.